Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music while sharing a craft beer. Hope you've been having a killer week so far. I most certainly have been. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that loves music, someone that is that person that introduces you to all of the best bands, well, you should let them know that the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast exists. You can tell them that there are over 380 episodes where I sit down with some of the world's best metal musicians. We talk all about their life and music while sharing craft beers. If you were to encourage one of your music-loving friends to become a brand new Vox and Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today in the podcast, I'm very stoked to be with the Vox and Hops album review crew, and we are going through our top 10 albums of 2022. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 384.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm very, very stoked to be with the Vox and Hops album review crew. Here we are at a Thirsty Thursday virtual hang. We are funnily recording this with me with no power. It's actually never happened the first time me recording an episode in my house with actually no power going on. So, we're having fun, and Philippe from the Whispers from the Void podcast is hosting the meeting for me because I'm probably going to lose power again when my battery drains, and I'll join on a different device. But that doesn't matter. We are here to talk about the top 10 best albums of 2022 with the Vox and Hops album review crew. We got Phil de Vitesse from the Whispers from the Void podcast. We have Evan Welch, the other half of the Whispers from the Void podcast. We have JIMBO joining us. It is 2 o'clock in the morning for him, and he is hanging out with us because he lives in Germany, the Aussie in Germany. And we have the metal architect himself, Jerry Monk. Boys, how you guys doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. When I saw that you lose the power, I was like, oh, how are we going to do it? Like, I just didn't understand. And then, like, you said, oh, it will only come on, like, at night. I was like, oh, fuck. Okay, so let's do it. Can I host it?
Well, thank you for that. You're making this a possibility. If not, it would not be happening. I successfully managed to mute the beeping that was happening in my house about 1 minute before I sat down here with you guys, because that would have been fucking annoying for everyone. Evan, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, me and Phil were doing an episode when the news broke. So always happy to be here. Happy to be back, baby, all that. But love seeing all your...
Massive loves to you and the little one and the missus, of course. We have missed you, but I know what it's like. And you're busy, and you're working a new job, and you're waking up at an obscene hour. So I'm happy the sacrifice you're making tonight to hang out with us. Jimbo's making a bigger sacrifice, 2 o'clock in the morning. Jimbo, how you doing?
I'm good. I mean, I'm sure whatever sleep I'm losing is nothing compared to what Evan's dealing with at the moment, so I'm not going to complain. I mean, we actually just got back from a Christmas dinner on a Thursday, where I had to slightly sort of curtail my alcohol consumption a little bit compared to the other people there. But I also spent 3 hours listening to reggaeton at this party, so I am pretty keen to talk about metal. Let's just say that.
Well, thank you for the sacrifice of not enjoying a bunch of delicious German beers when you were being bombarded with reggaeton. The sacrifice is appreciated. Jerry Monk, the metal architect, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just another Thursday night here in Texas.
Well, we get to hang out, so that makes it a good one.
Yeah.
Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music, and craft beer. Let's just go through around and talk about what are we drinking right now. What are we going to start off with? I imagine this is going to be a long podcast. We're going to go through probably 2 beers. What are we starting off with? Starting with you, Phil.
I have the Ojibway bourbon bitter by Le Prospecteur. I love the bottle, actually. I fucking love the label. It's like a paper and like around the bottle, but like big paper around the big bottle. So like, I don't know if we can see it a little bit. Let me just like this. And fucking great beer. I just poured it. Like, it's bitter, but barrel aged in bourbon.
Sounds amazing. Evan, what are you drinking tonight?
I got some Guinness I have about 6 over here.
Oh, shit.
But I also grabbed a Grim Ritual Pilsner from For Phantasm Brewing. It was the one they made for RPM Fest, which me and Phil went to this year, which was fantastic. And it's a delicious little beer. So I'll have that at some point tonight.
Very sick. How about Jimbo? What are you drinking on your side there?
I've just polished off the Head⁷ I was drinking to drink something a little bit stronger. It's a Craftwerk IPA from, I think it's from Munich. So this is an 8%. I mean, I would call that a double IPA, really. Anything above sort of 7.5%. And it's called Head⁷. It's very good. It's very well balanced American style IPA. Nice and hoppy with German hops, I believe. It's very good.
Very sweet. How about the Metal Architect? What are you going to be enjoying tonight?
I've got this little treat that was sent by Colby from your Brewtal Montreal year with the Apothekar Světlé Vyšepní, the Czech lager.
Hell yes. L'Apothekar, the Světlé Vyšepní, the light Czech lager. Delicious. It's so light, 4%, so crushable. On my side, I'm going to be drinking something very special, something that just arrived at my house from Texas. Velvet Hammer Imperial Red Ale from Peticolas Brewing Company. Talk to me about this beer, Jerry. You seem to probably know a little bit more about it than I do.
Yeah, that's one of the original breweries that started when the craft beer scene started down here. It's like he says, Imperial Red. Any bar that has craft beer usually has that beer on tap or in a can. And they've recently just started distributing to bottle shops. It's something that people have pushed really hard for the brewer to do. He's been more of like take home, but he's finally folded to the public. But he was very instrumental in getting beer to go originally from breweries, because before it was you pay $10 for a tour and you got 3 beers, and there was like no sales outside of that. In Texas, you had to do like growlers, and that was it. Like there was no can. And he was a lawyer, and he went down to Austin and got a lot of the laws changed to where canning and distribution laws got changed, because the laws here were super archaic when craft beer started.
Well, cheers to him for pushing boundaries and being an innovator and bending the laws, because I'm stoked to be holding this in my hand right now. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, people.
Smells amazing. Smells hoppy.
Cheers.
And like sweet caramelly. It's good. It's warm. You can feel the alcohol and the warmth of it. Very smooth, though. Delicious. Massive cheers. Very happy to be hanging out with you, talking about our top 10 albums. Now, 2022 was a massive year. It was a hard task to pick 10 of the best. It is. We are each going to go through this individually, choosing our favorite albums. Starting at number 10, I'm going to put some rules in, because it is we got to go through 50 albums right now together. So I'm going to put a 2-minute time limit per album discussions. I think that will help it roll and keep it going smoothly. I have a phone here that I'm going to keep running 2 minutes throughout as we get through this. And let's just jump straight into it. Let's start. We'll start with the Whispers from the Void podcast. You guys made 2 separate lists. Let's start with Phil. Who came in at number 10 for you guys?
Yeah, for me, number 10, I have it right here. It's Yatra, Born into Chaos. And I see the face of Evan that is just like, no, why did you do that? we talked about it, and I was like, yeah, it just, I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. But yeah, Yatra, death metal. I don't remember from where. It's from America. I know because I saw them at RPM Fest this year. It was fucking good. The album is fucking great. It's just like, for me, why it's number 10, just like it's death metal. I love it. Straight into your face, but so much good albums. And I had to just like make a decision. And I had to put it at number 10. So yeah. Am I under the 2 minutes?
Yeah, that's perfect. 1 minute, actually. I think we can even go with 1 minute, maybe. If we go to 2 minutes, that's okay, but that was very good. I have power back. We'll see how long that lasts, but that is a good step in one direction. How about you, Evan, the other half of the Whispers from the Void podcast? What is your number 10 album?
My number 10 is Sky Pig, It Thrives in Darkness. It was a self-release, came out October 8th. I mean, primal, doom, groovy. I mean, it's pretty much, it's a nice little descent into what I imagine a lot of bands tried to capture a while ago. But I really enjoyed it. You guys should definitely give it a listen. It's probably the shortest album I have on my list right now, but
amazing. We're doing well time-wise, people. Let's go. Let's see if Jimbo can keep up. Number 10 on your list, Jimbo. I know it was hard for you to get 10 down. You had 11 for a while. You had 2 number 7s, but it's okay. We got it down to 10. And what is your number 10?
The fact that I had 11 is only because I had 2 number 7s for a while, so we eliminated one. But I ended up changing my list, and I've gone with Blind Guardian's new album, The God Machine, because what better for an extreme metal podcast than some power metal? It's just what everyone wants. But I'm a long time Blind Guardian fan, but honestly, the last few albums that they put out have really left me cold because they were pushing much more into this sort of progressive direction, but they've made a deliberate decision to go back to the sort of thrashier, more speed metal oriented stuff that they were doing in the 90s. And I couldn't be happier. So this has got, for me, everything that I would want as a Blind Guardian fan from an album. It's got these bombastic sections with these, very well executed classical sort of power metal vocals. They're a little bit operatic, but it's not over the top with the orchestration. It's got this super catchy, very fast speed metal riffing. Hansi's a great vocalist. I think that the drummer, Frederick, doesn't get enough credit because he's just a phenomenal drummer. But I don't think this album is necessarily going to win any. If somebody had never listened to Blind Guardian before, I wouldn't say go and listen to this album as your first Blind Guardian album. But as a fan, this is such a return to form for me that I had to include it in the top 10 because it's so good. Some of the tracks on there are some of the best tracks they've done in probably 15 years. Really good.
Amazing. Jerry Monk.
All right, my number 10. The title is probably going to take the whole 2 minutes to get out. It's Breasts. Though life has turned out nothing like I imagined, is far better than I could have dreamt. This is the second album from a one-man, I would say, post-metal mixed with some black metal. This was one that I kind of went tug of war with another album. Should this be 10? But the lyrics on this album is what made me put it in my top 10. It's very emotional, very deep, talking about his life. And I connected with a lot of the lyrics, especially the last song on the album. And musically it's pretty good as well, this for being his second album. And he's done some other projects in the past. He was a guest on the podcast. Yeah, this is a fantastic album. It's very cathartic, very emotional. And I've talked to him from time to time. He's already working on new material for another album. So maybe next year we'll see another one.
Hell yes, and he definitely is, because he sent me some stuff already, and he may be writing a track just for me. My number 10 is something a little different. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, and I'll preface my entire list by stating that it's the albums that I listened to the most this year. So, Ghost Imperia came out March 11th via Loma Vista Records. Catchy as fucking hell. Old school, majestic, earworm melodies. There's some of their heaviest material that they've written in probably the past few albums on this. The guitar solos are fantastic. It's memorable. Just something that I kept turning back to and wanting to listen to again and again. And I found myself doing that, and I still put it on and spin it, and I'm still as satisfied as the first time. But I do remember the first time I put it on, I was like, what the hell is this? This is way too power metal for me. And then I just couldn't stop listening to it. So Ghost, Imperial, I'm surprised it's on my list, but it is number 10. Number 9, let's keep it rolling. We'll just keep going through the same order. We'll make it be super easy. Philippe, what would hit number 9 on your list?
My number 9 is Bloodbath, Survival of the Sickest. Well, to be honest, it's like you and Ghost. I never thought I would like it because, to be fair, my favorite era of Bloodbath is Michael Eickerfeld. This is my favorite era, and I don't care what people think. It's a great era. I love Michael Eickerfeld. The era with Old was weird, to be honest. Like, the first album they did with Old, I was like, nah, it's okay, but not like more okay. It's okay. Just okay. This one, they changed the tone of the guitar to fit with the vocal. And I thought it was very, very clever because I felt the vocals were more in place with the guitars and with the sound of Bloodbath. It's a new era of Bloodbath, so you need sometimes to change a little bit the sound. So it's fucking good. That album is fucking great. And the guest featuring on this album, Barney Greenway from Napalm Death and Le Clemé from Gorguts on that fucking album. I was like, okay, this is good. The songs are catchy. The songs are brutal. It's fucking good. Love it a lot. Bloodbath, Survival of the Sickest.
Let's see. My next one, I went with Witchfinder, Forgotten Mansion. This was a little bit of a release. It came out November 18th under Misread Sound. And Stoner Doom for me has sort of just been like something that's always appeared in my top 10s recently. Just Doom in general. I've really taken a huge liking to these past couple of years. And I enjoy this record. It's got a lot of depth to it. It's got a lot of neat little memorable riffs, and the ambient side of the record, like with the vocals. I always know what I'm listening to. So
amazing. I'll have to check that out. I'm getting more into Doom as my life progresses as well. Jimbo, hit us with number 9.
Well, I mean, I'm following that up with another Doom recommendation. At number 9, Ataraxy, The Last Mirror. So this is a sort of, I don't know, death doom, funeral doom band from Spain. So it has this very oppressive atmosphere, really crushing guitars, this sort of sparse disembowelment influenced style of death doom that seems to be very prominent these days. That's great. So you have these very crushing sections, and then these sections are very sparse ambient lead guitars as well, but really anguished vocals that remind me a bit of Martin Van Drunen from Asphyx and other bands. Very, very slow in the doom sections, but when the death metal hits, these guys really they speed up a lot, and they're really savage in a way that's sort of reminiscent of Incantation, for example. Really great cover art, and it has this sort of goth atmosphere at times, but it's gothy but stays very murky and crushing at the same time. I don't know if much of that makes sense, but I think if you're a fan of any of the recent sort of death doom that's been coming out from bands like Worm or whatever, I would definitely check these guys out. I thought this is a great album.
The Metal Architect, number 9.
Number 9 for me was the debut album from North Dakota's Mall. It's Seraphic Punishment is the name. Them and Phobophilic are both leading the charge for Fargo, North Dakota. This one, I would say, is very, if you're trying to get into a new wave of OSDM, would be very accessible. There's like hardcore, there's some groove. There's a lot of different elements that these guys put into their sound. I know some of the songs on here are re-recorded from their demos and their EPs. I don't really care. I mean, there's a bunch of, pretty much 80% of this album is new stuff. So it's, for me, it's a solid album. And I can't wait to catch them live because I've seen some video and their energy seems to be fantastic. So that's Mall Seraphic Punishment.
Fantastic. Just like this beer, Jerry, it's really fucking good. It's very, very good. For myself, if you know me, you won't be surprised about this. August 19th, via Sargent House, Russian Circles, Guinnesses. Love them. I've loved Russian Circles for years now. I love post-metal, vocalist music. It's something that gets me into a trance as I'm walking, let's say, or if I'm working on something. The vocals won't bother me as much. Guinnesses is a great continuation of everything they've done in the past. The groovy chug riffs that they pull off are super memorable, and then there's the complete opposite where it gets really zen and spacey, the shoegaze, I guess, would it be. Moments are extremely fantastically executed, very, very memorable, weird little Tool-esque moments, which is something new, I feel, for Russian Circles. I really, really enjoyed this, and I'm not surprised that I did it, but I am sort of surprised it's on the top 10. But I keep going back to it, and that's the thematic of my list for this year. Just keep going back to these albums. It's the albums that I listened to the most throughout 2022. We did it. That's number 9. We're moving on to number 8. Philippe of the Whispers from the Void podcast. What is your number 8?
My number 8, we are going a little bit away from the death metal. We are going in the doom section, doom pop, with Sohm, The Shape of Everything. Wow. I was blown away by that album. I heard that, I was like, yo, it's just so good. It's like I felt some Devin Townsend vibe in that album. I was like, I'm a jerk for Devin Townsend. I just love this guy. And those sounds, I was like, okay, it's really reminiscent of this. It was so like something like I don't know how to describe it really. It's like it's something from Pelagic Records, so it's very like the ocean in a way. It's doom, but it's not doom like depressive. It's doom very melancholic, very hopeful in a way. So yeah, I just enjoy it. I cannot describe it more. Go listen to it. It's so good. I love it.
Killer band. I love Sohm, and anything from Pelagic is a stamp of approval for me, as you will find out in the next few weeks when I release an episode with Robin from the Ocean Pelagic. Let's keep going. Evan, the other half of the Whispers from the Void podcast.
This next album really kind of bounced all over my my list. It was a bit of an earworm. I've always remember it, and I always seem to be going back to it. When it first came out, February 4th, I just wanted to sort of I just kind of listened to it once, and then I never really got back to it until later in the year. But I went with Venom Prison, Erebus. It was released under Century Media. I know there was a lot of hype that originally happened when this album came out, and then I felt like everything kind of died down after that. And I think that after, I don't know if it ever really met the hype, but it's a great record. I really like the guitar play. The vocals I dig, and it's just always been in my ears throughout the years. So,
hell yes. Jimbo, number 8, where are we at?
Okay, I do not know how to pronounce this album name, but we'll go for it. I'm going with a band called Ossuary, from Barcelona, and the album is called, we'll just pronounce it in full phonetic Australian, El Nous Cants del Sibylla. There we go. Good enough. So the cover art of this has a sort of a chariot ridden by a goddess with a spear that's being pulled by some sort of giant bear who has like 9 snakes instead of a head. And that pretty much describes what you're gonna get with the album, because the music is absolutely fucking insane. It's very, very intense, sort of very savage death grind. There's a lot of touch, which is, this kind of music is not necessarily normally my thing. I don't normally go for very relentless, dissonant, blackened death grind mix-ups, but I think that the black metal touches actually work really nicely in this. It sort of adds what I would call an invisible oranges element to it, where there's enough of this sort of like this tremolo aspect and this, not an epic thing, but you kind of like, you get these riffs that you can really latch onto, even though the music's very intense. There's little proggy bits as well. There's occasional bits of D beat in there. The lyrics are all in Catalan, I think. Super intense guttural vocals. Absolutely beats the shit out of you. It's actually one of the reasons that I included this album in my top 10 was this is the only album that I've included that's like this. And it's just, if you want an album that's going to absolutely pummel you, then check these guys out. They're a small underground band from Spain, but they fucking rule.
Very, very fucking sick. And I'm sure that they really appreciate all of your pronunciations. Just very well done. And if anyone could do it, it would definitely be JIMBO. The Metal Architect, your number 8 slot. What you got?
Number 8, I have a band from San Francisco called For Lesson, with their album called Black Terrain. This is the second album they put out, and it's a doom, but they also do some black metal and some ambient as well. And it features 2 former members of the Botanists. So if you're a fan of the Botanists, you know this is going to be kind of a strange album, and it is. There's 4 tracks, and it's about an hour long, so it's a very demanding listen. First track and the final track are doom songs, but sandwiched in there is ambient and black metal, and the black metal on there is fucking phenomenal. And so is the doom, but it's like I said, it's very demanding, but it's a very rewarding listen. And I first listen, I was like, this is going to be in my top 10. I know it. I go back to it almost weekly because it'll chew up an hour of your day. It's not one that you can just throw on and like, oh, it's in the background, whatever. You're listening to it. It demands your attention, and I can't wait to see what they do next, because even their first album is pretty phenomenal. But yeah, that's For Lesson, Black Terrain.
Fantastic. For myself, it's an album that completely shouldn't be on this list. I'm surprised it's there. I can't remember how I started listening to it. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense why it's on this list. Came out October 21st, so not too long ago, but I've been listening to it just about every day since then. Brutus Unison Life came out via Sargent House. It is so fucking catchy, and it is the most punk rock thing that I've ever liked in my life. Very bass driven, and I think I appreciated it a lot more when I realized that the vocalist was also the drummer. I think that is something that like just convinced me like that the little faults in the vocals, which are amazing, were more acceptable because she was also playing drums, Stephanie. Just amazing. It reminds me of, and I think the reason why I think I like it is that it reminds me of my project that I had in the early 2010s, The Era Of, which is a very bass-driven project with sparse guitar work, with a lot of effects, but they're just, it's so fucking catchy. The choruses are just incredible. The verses are well written as well. Amazing songwritership. I love it. I can't like it enough. It's very punky, very like post-punk, something that I would never expect to like or even have on the top 10, but it's there, and it's there to stay, and it's an album that I know that I will enjoy for the rest of my life. Here we are, number 7, only one number 7, everyone. Philippe from the Whispers from the Void podcast, what's your number 7?
Well, we are going in Montreal this time with Incandescence, Le Cœur de l'Homme. Yeah, so this album, well, I met Phil and Louis Paul from Incandescence this year at BG Brasserie Urbaine for the release of the Incandescence beer. And wow, like they are fucking great. They're fucking great, dude. The album is fucking good. Like the album is so like, it's black metal at the purest black metal you can find. It's not a mix of genre. It's black metal. You want some black metal? You put Incandescence. And it's all in French. So if you want to learn French, go check Incandescence. You will learn French.
Evan, go for it. You're number 7.
All right. So even though this album's my number 7, they're number 1 in all of our hearts. And honestly, I don't think I could think of a better band that emerged these past couple of years than these guys. I went with Hath, All That Was Promised, released March 4th under Willowtip Records. I mean, if you guys haven't heard this record, you have to. If you don't know who Hath is, you live under a rock, and that's it, man. I mean, we got to see them play at RPM Fest. Frank played with a broken foot, and he still killed it. I mean, these guys are they're monsters, you know? And I mean, I know Jerry was talking about like the old school death metal bands that are out there right now. It's actually savagely, it's sad to see that Hath doesn't get as much recognition as they deserve compared to all of the other hype bands that are out there right now. And, you know, these guys, they deserve to be in these circles to be talked about. They're fantastic.
Absolutely true. And I believe typically members of Hath come to these Thirsty Thursday recordings, and they knew that they'd be on all our lists. So they're too bashful to come hang out with us. Jimbo, which number 7 made the cut?
Well, I mean, I had to trim my number 7s down, as you know. But we're coming in. Actually, I've been chatting with another resident review crew member, Mochi the cat, and he's unable to be online, as he is unfortunately he cannot converse with us in speech that we can understand, but he has communicated with me in his own unique ways that he has selected for number 7 this evening. German black metal band Vortiger with their album Striving Towards Oblivion. Mochi loves black metal, loves this album. And if Philippe is talking about a pure black metal album, this is a good follow-up for this. So this is a sort of very epic sounding melodic black metal album. It sort of fits in this vague genre called cosmic black metal. It's got I think by far my favorite album cover art of this year. It's really well recorded. It's very well composed, excellent vocals, really razor sharp riff work. The more I've listened to this, I listened to this earlier in the year and it would not have been in my top 10, but the more I listened to it, the more it grew on me. It reminds me a little bit of the American black metal band Mare Cognitum, but it's a little bit more digestible because the songs aren't all 20 minutes long. So it's like a good 4-minute song length, which is a little bit easier to handle. And
if you're walking to the store and you want some black metal,
well, it depends on how far you are from the store, but yeah, exactly. If you want to walk to the store and also imagine that you're living in the movie Alien, this is perfect. I'm not sure if that's your store walking experience that you want, but that's the feel. It's a phenomenal album.
Amazing. And it is true that Jimbo had to share his list with Maki, so we appreciate that sacrifice as well, having to share your list with Maki, the other personality of your review self. The Metal Architect, number 7.
Number 7, I have a band from France. I'm not sure if it's an acronym, but it's ACOD or ACOD. Fourth Reign Over Apostasy and Beyond. They're a blackened thrash band. And similar to what Jimbo was saying with Vorga, it was at first I was like, yeah, that's good. And the more I listened, it just kept growing on me and growing on me. They throw some symphonics into the mix as well, and it like pulls you back in. You know, it kind of fades off a bit, and then the symphonics, it like, oh wow, that's a nice touch. Amazing riffing. Everything about it is really phenomenal. This was their 5th album they've put out. They've put out nothing but albums, no EPs or demos or anything that I could find. Just an excellent black metal album that I listen to a couple times a week now. And it's come out recently, but it's just one that's grown on me, and I can't stop listening to it. So cheers to ACOD for putting out a stellar album.
Fan-fucking-tastic. For myself, May 13th, came out an album by surprise. They were hyping it up a little bit before. I did not like any of the stuff that they were showcasing. It's like a super group because it consists of 2 members of Radiohead. I'm talking about The Smile, A Light for Attracting Attention. Now, you're like, this is supposed to be a metal thing, but, you know, I'm a multifaceted human, and I like all kinds of shit, and I love Radiohead, and I love this record. It's everything you would expect from a Radiohead album, everything that you expect to come from Tom York, a little bit less electronic than Atoms for Peace, which is a band that I also enjoyed, but I definitely was more of a Radiohead fan. A little bit back, like, stripping back all the electronic stuff and going back to just simple guitar songwriting on some of the tracks, which I really appreciated, like going back to those early Radiohead albums. Tom York's vocals are amazing. The complex music structures that are presented in a very simple, digestible way that it's fucked up shit that's going on, but you don't understand that it's fucked up. It sounds normal. Big fan of stuff like that. Catchy, smooth, yet and comforting is really what I'd have to imagine it as. The smile, a light for attracting attention. I like it. Number 6, Phil, what do you got?
Well, I have a Fit for an Autopsy. Oh, what the future holds. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this album is good. So, what the future holds. Well, Fit for an Autopsy, I don't know that band that much. I've discovered them because of the Sea of Tragic Beast. And I was like, wow, that album is great. I thought at first it was Gojira, but like with more like steroids. Yeah, I discovered them because of that album. And when I heard they released Oh, What the Future Holds, I was like, okay, let's listen to it. And it's catchy. It's intense. There's still this Gojira vibe in a way, but it's better. It's better than Gojira. I'm sorry to say it's better. I just love it. I love the mix between deathcore and this style. I love it. Yeah. It's very sucked to be me because I cannot just say more than I love it.
I'm glad that you know what you love, Phil, and we love you for that. The other half of the Whispers from the Void podcast, Evan Welch, what do you got at number 6?
On February 18th, under Nuclear Blast, Immolation released Acts of God, and I've been a part of that since it came out. I mean, stand the test of time. I mean, the Immolation, you know, what more can you ask for? It's fucking fantastic. 15 songs. It's a lot going on. I am not a big Immolation expert, but I really dug this album. It was just brutal through and through, in your face. I mean, man, you just don't like Jesus after, you know?
All right. So this is another pick that Mochi communicated to me through his feline ways, which is Nostalgia au milieu de l'hiver. So this is a one-man or one-person black metal project from Mexico. So it has this kind of I wouldn't necessarily call it depressive black metal because it's maybe a little bit more, you know, it sort of evokes this sort of second wave black metal thing. It's a little bit reminiscent of Dissection or Emperor at times, but much more stripped down. So the riffs are very classic black metal. But it's got these progressive elements, dark metal elements, really, really good vocals. And it's the reason that I mentioned depressive black metal is that it's got this very, very melancholic feel to it. So, you know, because the one person project, it's quite minimalist. It's got these piano sections that are also quite, I don't know, the whole album feels quite sort of sad, but the riffs, the atmospheric touches, it's really emotive, really, really evocative. It reminds me a little bit of some old Mirkwood demos from the 90s, but much better produced and put together. But there's like really beautiful tracks on here, particularly the track Liminal, which I really liked. This is an album that I came into very late in the year. I think it was released in October or so. So I haven't really put together my thoughts on it very well. But also it has saxophone And so for me, this is the year of black metal saxophone, because I'm also going to talk about another album later. And I never thought I would be talking about black metal and saxophone at all, ever. But now I got 2 albums in my top 10 that are fucking incorporating saxophone into it. But this is a really, really beautiful album that's well worth checking out if you're into very, very sort of minimalist atmospheric black metal.
Fucking right. The Metal Architect, number 6.
Number 6. Anybody that knows me, I'm a big melodic death fan, so this one should come to zero surprise, and that's the Halo Effect, Days of the Lost. This is what I feel like if Michael Stane had stayed at In Flames and they had all, that core group had all stayed together, is what In Flames would sound like today. And what really made me love this album a lot is every track sounds different. No 2 tracks sound completely identical. I really love the Matt Heafy inclusion on the next to last track. His guest spot was perfect. Like, they threw him in at the perfect time. Voice sounded perfect for that. It takes me back to when I first started getting into extreme metal, when I was listening to bands like Children of Bodom, In Flames, Dark Tranquillity. It's just perfect nostalgia album. It could have been higher on my list, but this year, as we've talked about, has just been completely stacked. It's just like every week there's material that comes out. It's like, damn, this could be in a top 10, but I don't know if it's going to make the cut. But yeah, Days of the Lost by the Halo Effect. Really hope they tour this throughout the world, because I would love to see those guys together on stage here in the States. I would definitely pay top dollar to see that.
Definitely going to happen. I think they are doing a bunch of stuff in Europe right now. I imagine they are going to come over here in 2023. And if you guys are ever like trying to like find your way through all the new material that's coming out every single week, Jerry, the Metal Architect, adds these albums to the Brutal Awakenings playlist. It's available on my website. I post it every week on my socials. Go check it out. He is a busy man. I don't know how he does it, but he does it, and every week he packs it up. It's going to be hours and hours long this year, Jerry. It's quite impressive. For myself, number 6, Zeal and Ardor, self-titled. I had a chat with Manuel early last year before the album came out. I'd been a fan beforehand. I was excited for the conversation. We really hit it off. He was immediately just a cool person that I can imagine being friends with, going and drinking beers with, going to dinner with. Enjoyed the album. Then I listened to the album because I never listened to stuff that is before the album's released. I just don't like doing that. I like experiencing an album on album release day. It's just something that it's how I am. So listen to the album, just loved it. It's earworm catchy. Every song is memorable. The weird mixture of metal, industrial, the clean vocal usage. Then I saw them live, and it's perfect. It's exactly like the CD with the 3 vocalists on stage. All the 3 vocalists are prominently placed. It's not the Manuel show, despite the fact that he is basically the main songwriter. It's interesting how the concept of him being the main songwriter but yet having everyone be a part of the project is very interesting and very appreciated, and the music feels like it feels like it's a community thing, yet it's definitely his identity. Very interesting, catchy, soulful. It'll make you dance, which is something I don't like to do, but I did and do when I listened to it. Love it. Zeal and Ardor came out February 11th. I knew that it would be on this list at that point, and here it is. We're halfway, so we're going to crack new beers. You can either not finish the beers that you're drinking right now or finish them later. But let's introduce a second beer for the second half of this chat, starting with Philippe, and then you can jump into your number 5. That's how we'll go through this. New beer, number 5 album.
It's funny because I just opened this beer. It's Bill in a Barrel by Cinquième Baron. This Bill in a Barrel, it's American barley wine aged in cognac barrels. Number 5, Werewolves from the Cave to the Grave. Man, that album, it's, how can I say? Werewolves is could say it's a roller coaster. First album, I didn't like it as much. Second album was fucking great. It was number 2 last year. And this year, it's number 5 because it's great, but it's just like, it's not as memorable as the second one, but there's some good earworm. There's some good, like, catchiness, some good brutality. And also, last year you had I Don't Like You. This year you have the fuck you from the self-help book Burning. It's just like, it begins the album like this. It's like, fuck it. Fuck you. I'm just like, oh, okay. You got it. It's good. Great album. To be fair, it could. I don't know if it could be better, but yeah, it's a great album. I love it.
Evan, go for it.
The next beer was Grim Ritual Pilsner from Four Phantoms, where listen, Matt, I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I highly recommend you hook up with them.
I have a note in my notepad called Pit Culture, and Drew from Four Phantoms is in that list.
Because of me!
On to the next one. Number 5 for me was Temple of Void, Summoning the Slayer. And I really enjoyed this record. Another death doom, more doom. I think it's because I became a dad this year that suddenly doom is like just so prominent in my life. I really liked it. I know that they kind of were really just sort of like laying back for a little bit, and then they came out with this record this year, released on the Relapse Records. I don't know. I heard so many kind of mixed things about it. I think it's because of the presentation, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, you guys should definitely give it a listen. It does take probably 1 or 2 to roll through, and then you really can kind of appreciate what they're trying to do.
Very sweet. Jimbo, second beer, 5th album.
My second beer is an Imperial Stout by Propeller beer called Nachtflug, which is good. So we're under the stout. And it's actually, we got like 3 Mochi picks in a row. He actually reviewed this one with his tiny paws tapping on the keys. This is a Swedish black metal band called Bleg, and the album is Fägring. And this is a really, really cool album. So Bleg basically they did this 4-album cycle where they were going to do 1 album for each season, and they started with summer, and they've now ended with spring. And this is definitely my favorite of the 4 albums. They're all good, but this is all of the albums are very, very good of evoking the particular feelings. So the winter-based album is very, very wintry. It's got this icy element that's reminiscent of classic Norwegian black metal. But the spring one manages to bring a little bit more hope into it, a little bit more positivity in the atmosphere. It's got a great mix of clean and harsh vocals. Really good integration of Swedish folk elements into it as well. Very, very atmospheric. I know my list last year was very heavy on atmospheric black metal. It's not to say that I've stopped listening to that stuff, but I think that there was just not so many albums that came out in that style this year that really caught me. But the album basically opens with this slow ambient passage, and then the first black metal track opens with just this like horn blast, and then it goes into the black metal, and it's so perfect and evocative. But if you're into this kind of stuff, if you're into like Panopticon or any of the other bands that I've fucking ranted about at length in the past, this is a very, very good album.
Fucking right. The Metal Architect, second beer, 5th album.
I've got the Stinky Baron Ossuary, another gift from Colby, one of our Thirsty Thursday members. My number 5, and I'm going to say that 1 through 5, these could have been number 1 as well. just these 5 are so tight. It could be 1A through E. But number 5 for me was White Ward, False Light. The Ukrainian, I would say more avant-garde black metal. They do some traditional black metal. They do some atmospheric, but very avant-garde. Like James has mentioned with the Bleg, they have used saxophone in their sound. And this isn't the first time. Their last album, Love, Failure, Ritual, they implemented some saxophone into that album as well. And I think they kind of use it like Rivers of Nile does with their death metal, is like, it's here. We're not going to overuse it, but we're going to use it, and we don't care what you think about it. And it's a nice touch to the music. There's a lot of really cool jazz interludes in their songs. I mean, it'll be straight up black metal. It'll stop, and a saxophone will just kick in. You're just like, okay, that's cool. It's a nice touch. It adds to the overall atmosphere of the album. But that's my number 5, White Ward's False Light.
Hell fucking yes. My second beer of the night is one of the 4 collabs that dropped for the 4th anniversary of Vox&Hops. This is from Miskatonic. Shout out to Mick and the rest of the crew from there for making this happen. This is Lucid Dreams. It's an India Pale Ale. It's a little West Coasty, though. Philippe Ivanovic did some killer Chihulu-style artwork on it, which totally fits Miskatonic's brand and stuff. I'm going to crack this. My 5th choice is White Ward, False Light. Great minds think alike. I like it, and I really only discovered this because of James just continually pummeling our chat with this album, because it came out April 29th, and there's no way I started listening to it then. Debbie Morty Productions dropped this. It's fucking great. It's really avant-garde, very Rivers of Nile-y, but with way more black metal and pushing the boundaries. Not comfortable. There is one little whoa section that comes in on a track that I'm not a fan of, and every time it comes on, I'm like, I don't like this. But that's okay. Every album has its little moment, and maybe if they didn't have that, it might be higher. But I definitely go back and listen to it a lot. It's catchy. It's progressive, and when the sax comes in, it's very tasteful. I almost feel like it's a little bit more tasteful than Rivers of Nile, a little bit more properly placed and less used as a focal point in the song structure, whereas Rivers of Nile really lent heavily into the sax use. I like it. I like it very, very much. Very cool, and I'm excited to see them live and see how they pull this shit off. Philippe, number 4 of the Whispers from the Void podcast.
Number 4. I have Behemoth Opus Contra Naturam. It was out September 16th. Behemoth, well, it's a love and hate relationship with that band, because that band was like, it's black metal, black and death. They got some good album. The Satanist was like the pinnacle of greatness for some people. For some people, it was before, but this, for me, the Satanist is a classic. It's now a classic of Behemoth. The last album, though, it's not the best one that I heard, personally. This one, I was like, yeah, it got the Satanist vibe. Like the Deathless Son, for example. I just think it's catchy, but it's so intense in the hatred of Christianism. It's so intense. I was like, okay, this one is very good. So yeah, go listen to it. Honestly, even if you don't like Behemoth, or if you haven't listened to him. So yeah, number 4 for me, Behemoth.
Perfect. Evan, the other half of the Whispers from the Void podcast.
I know you guys want more Doom, so I have some melodic death Doom for you. Mother of Graves, Where Shadows Adorn. I really like this record. It came out October 14th under Wise Blood Records. And this one was definitely one of those, like, I tend to search Bandcamp a lot, just randomly. And it kind of popped up and it grabbed me instantly. And I mean, I love it. Of Solitude and Stone. It's the 5th song on the record. It's probably my song of the year because it's always in my ears somehow. Like, and Spotify can tell you it is my song of the year. So definitely love them. Check it out if you haven't.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Jimbo, number 4.
I mean, it's a band that nobody has been discussing, so I'm going to sort of let me reveal my knowledge of the underground to you. A band called Head⁷. All that was promised. No, I mean this is a phenomenal album. I only discovered Head through the involvement with the Thirsty Thursdays group, and this album is truly really, really great. It's a devastating album, massive vocals. What I like about the vocals on this is they're really good. At times, they actually remind me of Mikael Åkerfeldt on the Fathomless Mastery, which is one of my favorite vocal performances of all time. But he stays really intelligible, which I think is great. There's progressive influence in this. There's touches of Gojira in the groovy parts. There's lots of tempo changes. There's atmospheric parts, really good drumming, catchy as hell. I think that the chugging riff from Lithopedic might be the best headbanging moment of 2022. It's just relentlessly good and really epic death metal. So very highly recommend.
Hail half. Jerry Monk, number 4.
All right, number 4 is Portugal's Guerrilla with Mirage. This is their 3rd album, 2nd on Seasons of Mist. This band came on my radar with their first album, Unsettling Whispers. And I was like, man, this makes me feel dirty and like just it's like disgusting. Like I'm a horrible, worthless person after listening to these guys. And they managed to up the catharsism on this album, but make it more bright and not as dark as their previous albums. I know their last album was on my top 10. I believe that was 2020. But man, this I reviewed this album, first listen, totally blew me away. I didn't know how they would top their last one. I didn't even know how they would top the first one with the second one. But these guys, I think, are one of the most important black metal bands out there right now. They recently just toured with Gall's Word in Europe. They're in South America right now, working their way up through Mexico as well. So I hope they can come over to North America, because it would be an instant go buying my ticket immediately. No bad things to say about this album. It's dark, it's light, it's heavy, it's soft. They know when to change tempos at the right moment. It's a beautiful album. I can't get enough of these guys, and I can't wait to see where they go, because the sky's the limit for these guys.
I agree. They were one of the ones that did not make the cut, but that was an album that I loved and I really enjoyed very, very much. And they are always in character. As I'm watching in the chat, people are writing this. I had a chat with one of them and they were like, you can't release the video because we are always in character. So true to their word, they're always in character and really fucking good.
And Salve, they're one of the singles they put out, the breakdown in that song, the whole song just bottoms out and then takes off again. It's probably one of my favorite parts of a song of this year, because it just comes out of nowhere and it's like you're falling. It's just incredible.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Number 4 for me, Holy Fawn, Dimensional Bleed, came up via Triple Crown. I love Holy Fawn. I have for the past 4 or 5 years. There's something about them that's it's very ethereal. It's like beautiful yet uncomfortable. Excellent songwriting. It's something you could put on in the background while you're doing some work, but it's definitely still a little bit captivating. It's very like not pretentious. Death Haven is sort of the vibe I get from it. They seem to be more down to earth. I don't know why. Super melodic. The screaming, harsh sections are abrasive yet still beautiful. It's like serenity laced violence is how I described them in the past, and I stand to that. I was looking forward to the album. We look forward to a lot of albums. Sometimes we're disappointed. This is one that it paid off in dividends, we could say. I liked it very, very much more than I expected to like it, and I still listen to it frequently. top three. We've reached it. Let's jump through this. Philippe, go for it.
Well, my top three, my third, it's Aeternam, Hair of the Rising Sun. Well, when you hear Rising Sun, you hear Japan, but it's not talking about Japan. It's talking about Constantinople. It's very it's Arabic vibe. It's death metal, but with Arabic vibe. It's Arab metal. Let's do a fucking genre, Arab metal, Arabic metal or something. But it got this vibe you feel you are in this city. You just feel you are in Middle Orient. It's so weird. It's they are able to take you and just make you do a journey within the city that doesn't exist anymore. So it's very weird. That album was it's a journey. It's a journey. I don't know how to describe it more.
I saw that the GMPQ 10-year anniversary party, which I hosted in Trois-Rivières. They are super progressive. The vocals are amazing, from harsh to clean, back and forth, while he's playing guitar, just fucking unbelievable. And you were like, you should listen to this album, this new album, and I haven't yet, so I will, because you're inspiring me now. I want to go to Constantinople with Phil whispering in my ear, Constantinople.
Constantinople!
Evan.
Yes. I have Aetherius Leiden, released January 14th under the Artisan Era. Some tech death. I normally have at least one. I really enjoyed it. It captured me very early in the year, being that it released in January, and it just always made my rotation. And what's funny is every time I make my playlist for the year, as I put in 2020 albums, songs from this album always came up. I always enjoyed it. I thought it was something a little different. I think tech death could use something a little different. So it's at least a little different enough where it kind of grabbed me. I wouldn't say that it's way out in left field, but it still holds true. It's it's more progressive than I would say tech death has been in recent years. So
fucking right. Jimbo, number 3.
Yeah, this is another pick that Mochi whispered into my ear. This is another Spanish band. So I ended up actually with 3 Spanish bands in my top 10. So this is Cruz, Confines de la Cordura, and this is another album that really grew on me. I picked it up a number of months ago. And the more I listened to it, the more it sort of moved up in the ranks of my top 10 for the year. This is a very thrashy, old school death metal album. It's got black metal influences, incredible energy. If you really have to hear it to know what I'm talking about, but it has I don't really like it when fucking bands do this intro track 1 minute bullshit at the beginning. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it's good, but normally you skip it because you just want to get to the actual metal. But on this one, it actually kind of works because they lull you into this false sense of security with some ambient bullshit, and then the actual first metal track, which is track 2, erupts by it's very rare that you have a death metal song that starts on a solo, but this just fucking shreds. It's really good. So the guitar tone is very much in that old school Asphyx, Dismember, Buzzsaw tone. It's really, really good. Very energetic, a lot more energetic than a lot of old school death metal that I hear these days, which I also I love a lot of the old school stuff that comes out, but some of it is, a little bit more doom focused, a little bit lackluster maybe. This is very, very energetic. I think it's impossible to listen to this album without headbanging. Some massive riffs, perfect amount of reverb on the vocals, and a incredible year for Spanish death metal. They're doing so much good stuff.
Fucking fantastic. Go Spain. I can't wait to be back over and playing death metal in Spain and banging my heads with hopefully some killer Spanish bands playing with Cryptopsy. The Metal Architect, number 3.
Number 3 is Undeath. It's time to rise from the grave. These guys, man, I feel they are at the top of the heap of this new wave of old school death metal. Just the songwriting on this album is, I didn't know how they would top Legions, but goddamn, this album fucking hits hard. The production is a little bit better than the last one. I feel that Alex's vocals improved a lot from that album to this album. The solos in this album are well-timed, well-placed, and fucking amazing. It's a fun listen. You're always headbanging. And they're great live. I just saw them this past Friday in a small venue with 200 stab wounds, and it was just mass chaos the whole fucking time. I was basically on stage with the band. That's how small this venue was. I can't say enough good things about these guys in this album. This album just absolutely slaps, and this is only their second album. I mean, they came out with a demo and then an EP. And then 2020, they dropped Legions of a Different Kind and took the world by storm. And this album just fucking rules. And I can't wait to see where they go. I mean, they've toured with Dahlia, they've toured with Dying Fetus. I know it's kind of weird. They're touring with Diar's Murder next year as an opener. They just did this co-headliner with 200 stab wounds. I mean, they're constantly touring. They're going over to UK next year. So, I mean, they're taking the world by storm. So if you haven't heard it, go listen. Undeath, it's time to rise from the grave.
They fucking rule. And honestly, they're super down to earth, and all the fame and the accolades that they've been receiving have not gone to their heads. So very stoked for them. Still super personable and will write me just as much as they will now as they did before Legions even came out, and they were writing me trying to get on the podcast, and we had that chat before Legions came out, and look at what everything happened, and we're still friends exactly the same way. So massive cheers to them, and I cannot wait to see how far their star will rise, because they're fucking awesome. Really fucking awesome. For myself, another album that came out on the same day as Zeal and Ardor, and I was torn when I left my house because I listen to a lot of music when I walk. So it was like, do I listen to Zeal and Ardor or do I listen to the new Hangman's Chair? So I started with, I think I started with Zeal and Ardor, and I listened to a track, and then I switched over to Hangman's Chair, and then I finished Hangman's Chair first. So Hangman's Chair came out February 11th. The album's called A Loner, Nuclear Blast. It's sort of like a doomy, very depressive album. Lots of like down-tuned guitars, simple chugging with killer vocals, very like Alice in Chains-esque style, crooner-esque vocals, very, very depressing. Hangman's Chair, an album that I've listened to countless times throughout the year. The last track, I should have written down the name, I don't remember, is something that I've listened to, probably one of the songs I've listened to the most. The guitar riffs are catchy, down-tuned, droney, memorable, melodic, amazing vocals, just super memorable. I love Hangman's Chair, and I don't think they've ever come to Montreal, but I can't wait till they do. I will absolutely be there. I love them so damn much. Top 2 people, we did it. Philippe from Whispers from the Void, number 2. Let's do this.
My number 2 is Cave In, a Heavy Pendulum. Well, if you know Cave In, you know Stefan Brodsky. Stefan Brodsky has been in Converge. He is still in Mutated Man, which is fucking great band. I love Mutated Man so much. And Cave In, well, when it came out, that album, I was like, yeah, okay, just listen to it and see what you feel about it. And I was like, yo, it's like a mix of Mutated Man and Converge, really. It's heavy. And also, because like this is the second album without Caleb Schofield, which was one of the founding member or one of the member that were there since the beginning, if I remember. But yeah, first album because Caleb Schofield died of an car accident, unfortunately. So since that album, he was replaced by Nate Newton from Converge. And this, I was like, okay, you got the vibe of Converge a little bit, but you got this like sludgy, a little bit doomy, but very sludgy, hardcore vibe. I like it a lot. Go check Cave-In, Heavy Pendulum. I love it. It's so good. Heavy Pendulum, Cave-In.
Evan, number 2.
So this is unlike any other album I have on my list. I mean, what can I say? It's a band I saw in a little dive bar in like Revere, and they've had such a unique sound for so long that I've always just been captured by, and I had to go with Moontooth Phototroph, released May 13th on the Pure Noise Records. And I know how some people can feel about the vocals. You know, where do they lie? They do have some hardcore elements sometimes, but they also are more rock, proggy. I just really think that it's because they have co-producers with Machine, who did Every Time I Die, and then Mark Morton of Lamb of God. And I've just always really enjoyed their music. I really love this record. Coming from Crux, which was so popular amongst the fans, I really think that this one was a nice step in the right direction, because I loved Chroma Paragon, and I just always thought Crux was a bit of a step back for them. And if you read into what they do, then they would probably say the same thing. It's just like they talk about different tendencies. This record was just very brightening for them, so I enjoyed the hell out of it. Continue.
Hell yes, and John is super fucking awesome. Excellent fucking chat with him before the album came out. JIMBO, number 2.
Yeah, I love that you started talking about how unbelievably depressing an album was, Matt, and then I immediately just go and look it up because I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds fucking great. Because that's just what I look for in music, apparently. My number 2 is Immolation, Acts of God.
I remember you writing, you were so happy when we got the promos for it, and you're like, this is really good.
This is really good.
I think I'm going to write a review about this, and then you did.
Fuck yeah. Oh, man. I mean, shit. I've loved Immolation for a long time. They were sort of one of the first death metal bands I got into. They're not as easy to listen to as some of the other old American death metal bands, but Jesus Christ, the thing is that this is everything that as an Immolation fan one could want. It's got this furious vocal delivery, really good clarity on the vocals that Ross always does. It's super brutal, has the great tempo changes, the riff, great solos from Bob Vinya. I think that Steve Shalati, however you pronounce it, I think he doesn't get enough credit as a drummer. I think that, but I really think that he's almost the best in the business. I mean, he's just so intense and so great with the tempo changes, and it's just a punishing album overall. And I find it really hard to critique Immolation at this point because they're such consistent performers. Like even when they put out an album like Kingdom of Conspiracy, which was not my favorite Immolation album, but even that was a great album. I mean, but I feel like this is definitely my favorite Immolation album since Majesty and Decay, and it actually might be my favorite Immolation album ever. Which is really super weird for a band that's this band is at least 5 million years old. I may be off, but I think, they've been around fucking ages. And to put out an album this far into your career that's this good is obscene. I mean, it is maybe a little bit long. Like 15 tracks is a long album, but it's wall-to-wall fucking bangers, to use the parlance of our time. And I just can't fault it. It's a fantastic album. It sounds great. It's almost perfect, but it's only number 2.
The Metal Architect, number 2.
All right, number 2, we've got Calgary, Alberta's Wake with Thoughtform Descent that came out on Metal Blade earlier this year. Their last album, Undoing Ruin, that came out 2020, just missed my top 10 that year. They changed from their grind black metal sound to a more Blackened Death with still a little bit of grind thrown in. These guys are fucking phenomenal. The songwriting on this album is through the fucking roof. They took what they did on Undoing Ruin and captured that and expanded on it. Their growth on this album is fucking amazing. I got to catch them live back in May with Hypocrisy. Super cool dudes. I'm gonna see them again next Monday. With Wayfarer, these guys just from where they've gone from doing just beat you down grindcore to this more atmospheric Blackened Death is great. I can't say enough good things about these guys in this album. It's just great stuff, and I can't wait to see where they go as well, because they're on Metal Blade, they're on a bigger label now, and they can get a little bit more reach than they could before on these smaller labels. But yeah, that was my number 2, Wake, Thoughtform Descent, which is actually their 6th album. I was surprised. I thought some of their earlier stuff was like EPs and demos, but no, this is their 6th full-length album to date.
Fucking awesome. A great band, Canadian band. Love them. Had a great chat with them this year as well. Was supposed to hang out with them, and then I got the Rona, and I could not go to the show because at that point you couldn't go out with the Rona here in Canada. Number 2 for me is a band that I should know about, and I did not know about, and I have not had the time to go back to explore the back catalog, surprisingly, because I love this album that much that I should have. And I checked out the album because I was pitched to have a chat with them from their PR person, and I did not step up and take it, and I regret that decision to this day. I'm talking about Psy Shiki, came out via Peaceville on August 26th. It's a fucking amazing album. What a cool fucking album. It's like metal, but in every facet of what metal can be, all over the fucking place. The grooves on this, the guitar work, the drumming, the extreme vocals, the clean vocals, the feel of the songwriting and song craftsmanship is superior. It's one of the best songwriting experiences in extreme metal of the year. It's on my list. The next one is, spoiler alert, it's not a metal album, so it is the best songwriting album for me from 2022 metal wise. Just so fucking good. And there's singing in Japanese, so I don't understand the lyrics, and I haven't gone through the translation of it, but it's what a fucking album. If you have not checked out Shiki from Psy, you absolutely should. You're missing out on something. It's an experience that should be lived. It's a fucked up album, and if you like fucked up music, you're gonna like Psy's Shiki. We have reached it. Drum roll, everyone. We have reached number 1, the best albums according to us, the Vox&Hops album review crew and myself of 2022. Philippe of Whispers from the Void. What is your number 1 album? And you can only name one.
I can't.
Get wrecked, Phil.
Fuck up!
Look,
I'm putting you under fire.
Allowed
You
to have
must
11. You're not allowed
choose
to
one.
have 11. This is terrible.
I cannot choose one, and I can't. And And yeah, like I can't, like it's impossible. I cannot. Like,
okay, so pick one, and then I'll roll through everyone, and I'll come back to you again.
Okay, so my first number one.
You live a fantastic life.
Yeah, I got a fantastic life. Devin Townsend, light work. It's my idol. If you know me, you know Devin Townsend. Like, I just preach to him. Like, I go like on my knees. I just like, oh, Devin Townsend, you're the greatest. Every fucking night. I do it. It's very tiring. I know. But yeah, I love this guy so much. It's just like each time he's releasing something, I buy it. I don't know why. That's why I'm broke now. But yeah, I just love Devin Townsend. He's just a great guy, great artist. Like, he's doing so much thing at the same time, so much styles at the same time. This one is more calm compared to other of his like albums that he released before. It's more calm. It's more like melodic. I mean, it's so good. Just go listen to it. And I did a review in French. Go listen to it. You have no excuse if you only talk French.
Evan.
All right. Well, so when I first heard this record, I didn't really give it a ton of thought. Not until probably like towards the end of the month. But it came out June 10th under Prosthetic Records. And that was Yatra, Born into Chaos. That was my record of the year. And really what it comes down to is it just comes down to musicianship and what they're able to do. I mean, those three are fantastic. And I've really enjoyed all of their records so far. They took a little bit, like they released in 2019, released in 2020, skipped 1 year and came back. And man, I just thoroughly impressed. And what really did it for me too was seeing them live. And I think that really just like appreciating an album when someone performs it, that could always make or break. And it really made it for me. It was unbelievable. And I listen to it every day, at least twice a day at this point. Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
Okay. I'll give it a spin just because you said that.
They're very good live. I saw them in a very small venue, and they fucking kill.
And it's surprising too, because like I said, they're just a three-piece. You know, yeah, they get on stage, you kind of think, whatever, and then they start playing and fucking blow you away. Yeah, Maria is she's killer.
Yeah, and they're all the nicest fucking people. I talk to them, and yeah, they get on stage and it's totally different. Like on a
fantastic sludgy death. It doesn't really get much better. It's really the simplicity that does it for me. You know, just the mastery behind it is awesome.
Jimbo, number one.
All right. Sorry, I was distracted from it because I was in my Bandcamp putting Yatra on my wish list, which is my usual thing. Is like I'm always like, I had to go and put the Psy on there as well because they're a band that I know is like legendary in black metal, but I just never got into for whatever reason and never checked out. But for my number one, Mochi and I have reached a consensus in a first in human feline relations, and we have selected White Ward, which we've already talked about. False Light. It was my man Giannis that first put me onto this band with their previous album, and then I sat on that recommendation for a couple of years, and honestly, I think it was the saxophone that sort of put me off initially, but it works so well. Like they because I don't dislike jazz, but I'm not what you'd call a jazz guy, and I'm certainly not hey, let's take extreme metal and put jazz into it. I'm not that guy. I'm really not that guy. But it works really well because they use the saxophone and the trumpet and the piano to create this sort of really this particular atmosphere, this sort of desolate urban atmosphere. It sort of feels like you're walking through some sort of deserted, post-apocalyptic, rainy street. It's a particular kind of atmosphere that they're able to conjure. That it's a little bit corny because it's not corny, but it reminds me of like watching like a gritty 80s cop drama or something. It's a very particular sort of saxophone, but anyway, it works really well. And then they've crafted all of this amazing black metal around it, but it's got so many influences. It's got this like post rock and a lot of 80s and 90s goth. There's parts of one particular track that sounds like Sisters of Mercy. That's really good. I mean, I know you don't like the whoa part, but look, it's I'm all about the whoa. No, I mean it's not my favorite part, but I feel like it sort of, they wear their influences on their sleeve. So they've got these hardcore influences and they really embrace it, and they really make it work. There's got the black metal is done very, very well. You've got incredible fucking drumming, really good harsh vocals, but then it's matched with these clean vocals that sound like they're from a goth rock album. It could be the parts of it sound like Robert Smith. Really crushing breakdowns. I suppose the reason that I put this ahead of the Immolation album was that for me, this was sort of something new. The Immolation album is great, is a fantastic album, but for me, it's really just Immolation performing in their best possible form. Whereas this, for me, was really putting a bunch of disparate elements together to create something new. And every track sort of seemed like it was bringing in some additional influences. So White Ward got the nod from Mochi and I, and also from like a really young band. Look, I don't know shit about music. I'm not a musician, but this is really, like, this impressed me. This is really great.
Great album. Made my list. Made Jerry's list. There's a reason for that. Number 1, Metal Architect.
All right. No surprise here. Half. All That Was Promised. Their second full length to date. This was my most anticipated album of the year. The growth on this album is off the charts. They took what they did on Of Rotten Ruin and expanded beyond what I thought they could do. The drumming by AJ on this is fucking phenomenal. Nothing out of place, nothing off time. I will be honest, it took me 2 or 3 spins to really appreciate it. At first, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. Maybe a step back, but it finally clicked for me. It's a phenomenal album. I'm super proud of where they've gone. Wish they were here to like love all over them, but like you said, they're probably too shy. This is great. This is awesome. And like I said earlier, it could have moved up and down my list, but it's probably my most listened to album this year. Like James was saying, Lithopathic, that's the most headbang worthy track of the year. Just pummeling, fucking great. The songwriting is great. And yeah, I need a tour. I need a half tour, whether it's headlining or opening or direct support or whatever. I need to see these guys live and meet them. But yeah, that's my number 1. Half, All That Was Promised.
Philippe, you have a second top album of the year, the number 1, the second number 1, the illicit, not playing by the rules number 1. Philippe, what is your second number 1?
My number 0 is Half, All That Was Promised. I won't talk about it too long.
Phil, you need to show them all the records.
Hey, stop cutting me. Thank you. Love you. But yeah, I got 1. I got 2. I got 3. And I got 4 fucking vinyls of that album. That shows how much that I love that album. That shows how much I love Half, because I bought from Pete himself those 4 vinyls. And Pete was like, dude, you're insane. I was like, hello, I'm Phil. So yeah, I'm an insane guy. I love to live dangerously. And that show was amazing. Half is amazing. All That Was Promised is amazing. I love that album. And yeah, and I cannot choose. I'm just like, I can't. And now you know why. But yeah.
For myself, it's an artist that I enjoyed. I had been following her for many years since she collaborated with Mono, which is a Japanese post-rock band that I fucking love. I followed her and I liked it. It was always very piano driven, and then I was like, well, let's listen to it. Let's check it. It came out October 7th via Bella Union, A.A. Williams, As the Moon Rests. What a fucking album. She like switched to guitar driven music. It's still very slow, ambient, heavy, dark, moody, depressive, but the songwriting is phenomenal. Just so catchy, so sad. The lyrics are dark and it's not uplifting, but there's like a moment of the melodies make it feel uplifting, but it's not, and it's extremely catchy. Just and like I'm trying to understand the breath pattern. I'm like trying to learn how to sing it as I'm listening to it when she's breathing. It's fucking beautiful. It's amazing. What an album. It's my album of the year. I've listened to it probably every day since it came out, since October 7th, and it's an album that I'll listen to for the rest of my life. Just so fucking good. If you guys haven't checked it out, and it's for like a rainy day, it was like perfect. It came out like here in Montreal. It was raining a lot during the fall, the minimal fall that we had before winter hit, and it was perfect. Just like this like drony, like low tuned guitars with melodic, dark melodies. And the rain, anyways, it was perfect. It was like something that you must listen to. If you haven't checked it out, it's sort of gothy. Really, really enjoyed it. Very, very, very much. That's it. That's the top 10 of 2022 from the Vox&Hops album review crew and myself. But of course, there's going to be more. What were our favorite shows of the year? Phil.
My favorite show of the year. Well, is it a surprise if I say RPM Fest? It's not a show, it's a festival, but fuck those bands. And even if I stayed in my fucking car, I slept in my car, it wasn't comfortable, all the fucking bands were fucking incredible. I only saw 2 days on 3 days, but god damn, you have to go to those 2 days. Like Yatra, Half, Volcandra, all fucking men, like Lich King. I was like, okay, that's the best lineup. And for a little festival, to be honest. And Matt, you have to come with me next time. Next festival, you come with me. I'll take you in Montreal. We go in my car and we go there.
Fucking right. We need a photographer. We'll bring Mihela with us. We'll document the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, no problem. Let's do that.
Evan, what is your show of the year?
Well, RPM Fest was fantastic. I was actually just looking up a lineup because I for some fucking reason I can't remember, but I do remember seeing it was Shadow of Intent, Whitechapel, Cannibal Corpse, and Revocation, and that was a pretty banger show. And I think what really caught me the most was Whitechapel did mostly the old stuff, and so it was a lot from like This Is Exile. I mean, it was just great. It was fantastic. Cannibal Corpse is always good. At the time, Eulogy had dropped, so Shadow of Intent was performing new stuff. I mean, it was awesome.
JIMBO, show of the year.
I mean, this was at Damnation Festival in Manchester this year, which was an absolutely stacked lineup with like Stygian Bow and At the Gates playing amazing sets. But I got to go with My Dying Bride. I hadn't seen them in like 8 years, and they played a a set list that was I think it only had one song that was recorded in like the last 20 years. It was like one song from 2 albums ago from Field of Misery, and then everything else was super old school, and it was just like Aaron Stainthorpe is almost now my favorite vocalist of all time. Just the fucking intensity of how he performs on stage. I mean, on an album they're good, but Jesus, I mean, this is not a band that I've seen that many times. This is the 3rd time seeing them. It was just incredible set and just an incredibly intense performance. Really, really good. But the funny thing is, I watched them and I get this sense that this is just how he does every performance as well. It's really remarkable.
Fucking right. Jerry Monk, show of the year.
This was a tough one because I've been to about 20 shows this year. But a top one for me was Meshuggah, In Flames, and Torch. That show was top to bottom, left to right, was fucking amazing. Torch, I saw them with Gojira a few years ago. I had no idea who they were. Totally blew me away. So it was nice to see them one last time because I know they're hanging it up. In Flames, very influential on me, like we talked about earlier. That was my first time actually getting to see them. Other times they had pulled off tours or I couldn't make it or whatever. So finally getting to see them. They played some old stuff. They played some of their new stuff, which sounds fucking amazing live. That was great. And Meshuggah, even though they just kind of stood in one place and headbanged and didn't really move around, top-notch musicianship. The light show was out of this world, and they played old stuff, new stuff, and just the whole room was electric the whole time. About 3,000 to 4,000 people crammed in there at the Bomb Factory in Dallas, just having a good time. But yeah, that was my show of the year.
Hell fucking yes. For myself, was a show that I wasn't expecting to enjoy as much as I did. I didn't like the album. It's one of those experiences that an album dropped this year that I was super hyped for. They were pushing it, so hyped for it, and I listened to it and it didn't connect. But then I saw it live, and then I started listening to the album, and it was fucking good, but not top 10 good. And that's Porcupine Tree. What a fucking show. Just so fucking cool. I think a part of it had to do with, I was with my friend Vince Berardinucci, I've had on the podcast before. I wasn't working. I wasn't there for any reason except for to just go see a show with my friend, and I think that played a major factor into it because I've been to probably 50 shows this year, and every one of them I was there for a reason, except for this one where I was just there to watch the show, and I think that had something to do with it. But what a fucking show. Most anticipated album of 2023. Philippe from Whispers in the Void. We're going to wrap up with this. Go for it.
I don't know. I'm not like as on point in this. I'm sorry. It's because the problem is we are on December 1st. I mean, there's like, I don't see album. The only album I saw is Metallica.
Evan, 2023, what excites you yet?
I don't know if it will be 2023, but I'm just kind of foreshadowing something that I think about ever so often. Unfortunately, this year we did lose Trevor. And so I hope that Black Dahlia, whatever their next record, if it does come out next year, if it does, it is a while. I hope their next record slaps just as hard as they've always done, you know. I mean, it sucks that we lose an icon like that. For sure. I'm so anticipating what they do going forward. And I mean, I've seen some of the live footage so far, and I mean, it's like they haven't skipped a beat, you know. They're still fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to what those guys do.
Fucking yes. Jimbo, an album that excites you next year.
Well, I believe Panopticon are going to have a new album coming out next year. So, as a relentless Panopticon fanboy, I assume that will be incredible. So that's That's, I mean, Harakiri for the Sky also have a new album coming out next year. It should be cool. But the Panopticon album's got to be my most anticipated.
The Metal Architect.
All right, I'll make up for everybody. I've got 6 on my list. I've already pre-ordered the catalog cap. I bought the lanyard at the show when they played with Amon Amarth a couple of weeks ago. Came with a code. Already ordered a physical. Segui Sugabog. I'm a fan, but they've never really done it for me. That first single was fucking killer. In Flames, Melodeath Stan. Their first 4 singles they put out, which I didn't know they were even put out an album until the 4th single, all have been fucking killer. Sounds like older In Flames I fell in love with. Flub, German black metal Imperium Decadence, and Oak. They just announced yesterday they are dropping a album in February, which is Guillermo from Guerrilla's other band.
For myself, if everything goes well, obviously it's a new Cryptopsy release.
Oh fuck! I didn't even know about it. Can I change my vote?
But if that doesn't work and it comes out the following year, Herod is going to drop a new album via Pelagic. I am on the album, so I know that it is coming out next year, and it is. It should be on everyone's radar. I've been listening to it for many months, and it's really fucking good. So,
All right, I'm putting this just like that. Maybe I will have an EP coming out next year.
Perfect.
So let's say it's an anticipated album.
Fuck yes. Yeah. Vox&Hops album review crew, Thirsty Thursday gang. This has been a blast. I had no power when we started this. I had candles illuminating my face as we launched this off. I had battery packs lined up to make things work. We had Hydro-Quebec make things come back, so we're good. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, talking about life, metal, and craft beer, talking about our top 10 albums of 2022. This has been a blast. I hope you guys had fun too. We're going to keep hanging out, but you're not going to be listening because you didn't come to the hang. You should have been here. Massive cheers to you all. I'm stoked for the future of the album review crew. I appreciate you greatly. We have a new member that wants to join next year, which I will introduce to you all and the world in 2023. And who knows where this is going to go. I'm stoked that people hanging out, drinking beer on the internet have formed a deep relationship and one of the best messenger chats that in existence, where it's just packed with the best music all the fucking time. It's just, I can't keep up. So keep it coming. I love you guys. Massive cheers. Say cheers. Cheers. Hey, thank you all so much for listening right today. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, do I ever love the Vox&Hops album review crew. I just can't thank them enough for being a part of my life, for helping the podcast by writing reviews, for helping introduce me to countless albums that I probably never would have discovered. So massive cheers to Philippe and Evan from the Whispers from the Void podcast, to JIMBO and Moki, the Australians in Germany, and to the one, the only, the metal architect himself, Jerry Monk. Massive cheers to all 4 of you for hanging out with me, for talking about our top albums. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the podcast. I just can't thank you enough. Now, as it always is, there are probably some albums that we missed that you wish that we said, so please write me a message. Let me know on social media at Vox&Hops. Just let me know. Let us know if we've missed anything, and we will most definitely check it out. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox&Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox&Hops Metal Podcasts mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive 1 email a month that will contain all of the details of everything that has happened recently in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. You will get to see which episodes I dropped recently. You will get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will also get to see which albums the Vox&Hops album review crew, whom I love, you know that, I just said that earlier, have reviewed recently, and you will also get to see which albums the one, the only, the metal architect, Jerry Monk himself, has added to the Brutal Awakenings playlist. There is always a lot going on in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal podcast, and the best way to stay informed is by signing up to the mailing list, so please do me a favor and do that. The Vox&Hops Metal podcast is brought to you by Sound, Telemedia, and Evergreen Podcasts. Now, on Tuesday, I said that this episode would be the final episode of 2022. Well, I lied. There is one more episode that's going to drop in 2022, and it's a banger of an episode. It's the beer version of this episode. That's right, we're doing the top 10 Quebec breweries. Once again, I'm teaming up with Craig Thorne of the BAOS podcast and Noah Forrest of Beerism. We're going to hash through our top 10 Quebec microbreweries. It's always a blast, and I can't wait to release that episode. So that episode is coming up in the next few weeks, and I'm super stoked about it. So until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops hits.